Oh, okay, thank you. All right. May have to have a little more light to be able to read. Is this what I get? Oh,
Hey, good evening. Stephen Strickland is on.
Scott, can we hear and see you?
I am.
Penny, good evening. Can we hear and see you?
Yeah, yes,
Nathan, how about you?
Yep, I'm here and I see and hear you fine.
Mike, welcome. Can we see and hear you? Mike, you're muted.
Okay, I'm unmuted.
Stephen, thank you.
That's good.
Karen, would you
Okay.
say hi and test your mic? Karen, would you check your mic, please?
Sure, how's that?
Great, thank you.
Thanks.
Hey, Brad, this is Stephen Strickland. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, sir. Hear you fine, Stephen. Thank you.
Outstanding. Good evening.
Good evening. Gavin, would you check your mic, please?
Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Can you hear me? This is Mike Floyd.
Yes, sir, Mike. Thanks to
Okay,
all
good.
of you for coming in a little early so we can have everybody set up. Can you all hear me all right? Once they sign up, not before, not part of the hiring and screening process. Yeah. All right, it's 7 o'clock, so we'll call the meeting to order. Good evening and welcome to the April 19th, 2021 meeting of the Oconee County Planning Commission. We are a recommending body to the Oconee County Board of Commissioners. Decisions made tonight on rezoning requests and other issues will be forwarded to the Oconee Board of Commissioners or appropriate city council for final action. Tonight's agenda and sign-in sheets for people wishing to speak are available outside the commission chambers. Anyone participating remotely wishing to speak should use the raise hand function located at the bottom of the Zoom window during the relevant request. This is the procedure we follow. The Oconee County Planning Department staff presents their report and recommendations on each request. Public input is received from the petitioner or petitioner's representative. Public input is received from a group representative or any individuals speaking in favor of the request. This period will be limited to 20 minutes total. Input will alternate between in-person and online participants. Public input is then received from a group representative or any individuals speaking in opposition to the request. This period will be limited to 20 minutes total as well. Input will alternate between in-person and online participants. The petitioner or petitioner's representative is allowed an opportunity for response or clarification if time remains in the relevant 20-minute period. Public input session will then be closed. The Planning Commission will discuss the request and may ask questions of Planning Department staff and or the petitioner. Upon a motion and a second, and after any discussion of the motion, Planning Commission will vote on the motion. The commission may elect to approve, modify, place conditions on, table, or deny a motion. We ask that you observe the following items regarding public input. Upon approaching the podium, please state your name and home address. Please direct your comments to the Planning Commission and not to the audience. When there are multiple speakers, please avoid repeating statements made by previous speakers so that there is time to hear from everyone. And we ask that the audience to extend the courtesy of not applauding or commenting on any of the speakers. First order of business is approval of the March 15th minutes. Commissioners, you have a copy of the minutes in front of you. If you have any corrections, amendments, or changes, please let me know. Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion.
Hey, Brad, this is Stephen Strickland. I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
We have a motion to approve by Stephen Strickland. Do I have a second?
I second it, Nathan Bird.
Second by Nathan. Scott, how do you vote?
Approve.
Mike?
Approved.
Nathan?
Approve.
Approve. Kenny? Kenny?
approve,
Karen?
Approve.
Stephen?
Approve.
Kevin?
Did you say Gavin?
Yes, sir.
Approved.
All right, motion carries. We have one item of old business on the agenda tonight. It is rezone P210-0210 Deferred Tax LLC.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. Again, you have before you this evening P20-0210 Deferred Tax LLC. This came before you a couple of months ago, and the board has referred that back to you for additional consideration. You'll notice the location is in the northern part of the county, made up of these three parcels along 316, the connector, in Morris Hill. Again, the current zoning is R1, B1, and B2, and is in the regional center character area of our comprehensive plan, future development map. And this is the concept plan that was approved back in 1992 for the B1 portion, the R1 portion, and the B2 portion sits in this location. This is that B2 portion that was originally zoned in 1988. Again, the rezone of the property is requested from R1, B1 PUD, and B2 to B2 for development of a shopping center with grocery store, retail, restaurants, and hotel uses. Again, the Planning Commission recommended denial of the request on 1/19 of this year, and the applicant requested delay of the BOC hearing to allow time to respond to input from staff and Planning Commission and the public. And the BOC returned the application to the Planning Commission for additional comment. Additional documentation regarding the proposed project access has been submitted by the applicant and forwarded to the Planning Commission. Again, this is the concept plan that you have in your packet that was submitted with the application. Some of the architectural renderings that were submitted as well. And representation of architectural standards. And again, staff recommends a conditional approval with the 20 conditions, and those conditions have not changed from the original staff report that was presented to the Planning Commission. Thank you.
Now we'll hear from the petitioner or the petitioner's representative.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm Ken Bell, Bell and Company, and if I may, I would like to split my presentation into two different increments. I would like to know when I have spent 14 minutes speaking. If that's acceptable, I'd like to reserve about 6 minutes to be able to respond to any comments from anyone that's come to speak against the project. So if that's acceptable, if you'll just let me know if it takes me that long. I'm Ken Bell, Bell and Company, and we have a long history of association with this property. And so there's basically 27 years of history associated with this property. And it's going to be hard to squeeze in 20 some odd years in 20 minutes. So I'm going to try to go as fast as I can to get this done. I've got to get through 2 of these. So I'll go as fast as I can. I'd like to express my thanks to those who are willing to meet or speak with me about this project, specifically Commissioner Amer Harden, Pastor Rick Britton, and Melvin Davis of Mars Hill Baptist Church, Mr. Stephen Strickland, Mr. Aaron Nowak, Mrs. Jennifer Walker of Deandra Drive, Mr. Guy Herring of the Planning Department, Mr. Wilder Bailey of Deandra Drive, and miscellaneous residents of Roanoke Subdivision, Old Waverly Subdivision, and Lake Wellbrook Subdivision. A little project description. Similar company has partnered with Publix food stores to become the primary anchor of the first phase of this proposed 322,000 square foot upscale shopping center and retail space on properties owned by Deferred Tax LLC. The new Publix store will be the second to serve the needs of the residents of Oconee County. Will be located in the Oconee County primary growth corridor, along with restaurants, banks, convenience stores, automobile dealerships, and related uses and services to be planned on the balance of the 12 other out parcel lots. The project, once completed, is expected to be valued at approximately $50 million, and will generate around 1,100 permanent jobs, gross sales of around $141,670,000, county sales and room tax at approximately $4,422,000, and annual property taxes in the amount of $467,600. Assuming if the property is built out with the placeholders, the placeholder uses and square footages as illustrated on the submitted rezone concept plan. The concerning the architecture, all of the buildings to be constructed in the site will be in compliance with the regional center character area as well as the Mars Hill Overlay District. And architects for the publics have been working with Oconee County planning staff to satisfy these requirements. And I think you've seen some of those attached representative sketches of the buildings that are proposed. Buffers will be installed along the Mars Hill Road as recommended by the staff report and along the adjoining properties in accordance with the requirements of the Unified Development Code. But in addition to that, because the site will be graded to balance the earthwork, the western property line will be graded down, creating a significant grade change between the church recreational property line and the subject property. In addition to the proposed landscape buffers, a black chain link fence will be installed along that western boundary of the subject property, which will be a clear definition between the recreation church property and the commercial property and the proposed rezone. I'm going to spend some time going through some exhibits because I think it's important that you all understand some historical significance that's taken place on this property. You go to the next slide, please. This is a plat of the property. Thank you. Okay. And the laser? Okay, thank you. This is the property as it was zoned in 1988. I'd like for you to reference where the pond is. I'm going to use the pond as a reference on basically all of the exhibits that you're going to be seeing this evening. And I want you to notice what the road to the right is doing. That is the Epps Bridge Road, or it may be called Old Epps Bridge Road, I'm not sure on that particular drawing. And it runs into what is the Mars Hill Road on the right side of the drawing. Now, this drawing is not presented with north straight up. Some of the other drawings that you will see, the north arrow will be straight up, and so the position of the property is going to be slightly different. This was an aerial photograph that I had flown in 1991 when the owners of the property engaged me to become involved in the rezone of the subject property. You'll notice the pond right here. You'll notice the fire station right here. And that's when the fire station had access out to Epps Bridge Road to the right. And this is Mars Hill down below. And you'll notice on the north, this is at the time, you can see that Highway 316 had not been constructed. That was the right-of-way width that was illustrated on DOT concept plans at the time. And you'll notice that there is no Oconee connector coming right through here. There are no off-ramps coming right through here or on-ramps looping around on the other side, because this rezone and this aerial photograph predated all discussion of the Oconee connector. This next site is the rezone plan that was prepared in 1992. Again, there's the pond for reference. At the time, this development had two different access points on Mars Hill Road. One was basically in the location illustrated in such a fashion that development could occur on both sides of the road. You'll notice that the road went all the way through and actually tied to Virgil Langford Road on the west side. At the time, Virgil Langford Road was planned to be opened. it has as it does today, there's a right in and a right out on both sides of Highway 316 on the north side of Virgil Langford Road as well as on the south side of Virgil Langford Road. So Virgil Langford was one of our access points at the time. And there's a condition in the rezone approval that the location of this entrance be coordinated with the Georgia Department of Transportation. The other access point was opposite Deandra Drive. And at the time, this portion of the property was zoned to be a single-family residential subdivision. The rest of this was to be developed as a B2 planned unit development shopping center. And the other portion down here was not a portion of the rezone. It actually was under separate ownership. No, I'm sorry. There was a separate owner, but one of the owners was the Keller that was actually in this Kelmac group who together owned all the rest of this property. And back in 1992, this was about the level of sophistication on a zoning map in Oconee County. I just call it to your attention so that you can see the shape of this B2 property here. The Epps Bridge Road, which goes on the east side of the property, and the Mars Hill Road that goes on the southwest of the property. And you'll notice there is nothing about Highway 3, about the Oconee Connector in this vicinity, because at the time, the interchange was planned to be built over here at this location, opposite Jennings Mill Road, and with the southern side of that being Epps Bridge Road. Now, this is a copy of the first 2 pages of a memorandum of agreement. This memorandum of agreement was consummated in 1997. And in this memorandum of agreement, this was between the owners of the corner property, the Keller property that was shown on the original exhibit, and also the owners of the Kelmac property, Mary Beth McDonald and Jimbo McDonald. And it discusses that the property is going to be, that there was going to be 13 acres of property donated at no cost to Oconee County. That 13 acres maybe missing an exhibit here, but that's okay. Sorry. Let me go back to a different zoning. The 13 acres went right through this property right here. It took out the dam of the lake. It's located on this property here. It cut off a portion of this property here. And it equaled 13 acres of commercial area, some of which was located also up here on the Virgil Langford Road. So in that document that I just showed you the first 2 pages of, it discusses that there will be 3 access points on this road in exchange for this donation of right-of-way to be able to widen that road. It discusses 2 access points on the Mars Hill Road for this property and 1 access point on the Oconee Connector for this property. This exhibit here is the B2 zone corner property at the corner of what is now the Oconee Connector and Mars Hill Road, with this road being the Oconee Connector. It was formerly known as relocated Mars Hill Road. This is now known as Daniels Bridge Road. This is relocated Mars Hill Road, and this is the old Mars Hill Road. I call this to your attention because in that settlement agreement, on this parcel where the racetrack is located, there was a designated access point to the Oconee Connector here and to Daniels Bridge Road here. On the parcel located here, there was a designated which is now United Community Bank. There was a designated access at this station and this station. Thank you. On this other parcel located across the road, which has not yet been developed, there were actually 3 access points. One on the Oconee Connector, another one on Mars Hill Road, and one at an undesignated location, one on Old Mars Hill Road. And there were 2 access points established in this agreement to be located on this original B2 zone property. So there's a contractual obligation still in existence for these 2 access points to be installed. These have been, these have been, these have not, and these have not. Okay, this is an exhibit. It is a recorded deed of a portion of the Oconee Connector. This is a portion of the Oconee Connector on the south side of 316. As 316 exists today, before it was going to be before there was a flyover bridge and before there was property here for the off-ramps. And this illustrates that the Oconee Connector cut through what was formerly the Skelmack property and the former B2 zone property, created a property across the road from the subject property. But I call this to your attention because there's 3 things of importance on this plan. That agreement also the original agreement designated where these access points would be by virtue of where.
Mr. Bill, for your reference, that's 14 minutes.
All right, thank you. This says end limited access. That is ELA. This says BLA, begin limited access. And this says future median opening. On this next slide, it shows does time remain? Yes, thank you. This next slide shows a different slide, a different part. It's the same part of the Oconee Connector, but it was for basically when the overpass is constructed and the off-ramps are to go in. And this is the same begin limited access and end limited access, but this one shows a full service median break at that location. Those were recorded documents. This is the 13 acres that was designated originally to be donated at no cost. And you can see how it cut through the property and how a large portion of DOT right-of-way was also cut out of the development. This is an example of a portion of the property that is actually in front of Epsbridge Center. There's been some concern about having traffic signals 666 feet away from each other. And at this project, Oconee, on the Oconee Connector in another location, these are exactly 660 feet apart at this location on the other side of 316. We've prepared a modified plan that attempts to address as many of the requirements of the staff as possible. There are 20 recommendations on the staff. We fully intend to, without question, to comply with 15 of those conditions, but all of the conditions that pertain to access, we think there's a conflict between the recommendation of the planning department, planning staff, and the existing agreement that exists on the memorandums of agreement. So we're willing to do some other things to mitigate the concerns about water quality. We propose to put in green infrastructure. We intend to put in a pond and a water feature and an aesthetic feature at the entrance of the project. We intend to create covenants where each parcel in the development will be required to use at least one of these green infrastructures, even though they're not required in the Oconee County Code or by state law. I'll be happy to continue to speak, but I'd like to save a little bit of time for any rebuttals. So thank you very much.
God, how much time do we have left?
2 minutes and 25 seconds.
We also have Bill Barron who signed up to speak in favor. Do we wish to have him heard? Does anyone else wish to speak in favor of the proposal? We have several people signed up to speak in opposition. First person signed up is Jennifer Walker. Ms. Walker?
All right, good evening. Actually, it's the other one. The one that's labeled rezone. There you go. Thank you very much. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you. All right, ladies and gentlemen of Planning Commission, I do appreciate your time tonight. My name is Jennifer Walker. I live at 1201 Deandra Drive. I'm a 20+ year resident of Oconee County, and I'm here to talk about in opposition of this rezone that's been proposed very eloquently, but there's a few things that we still feel that there's left unaddressed. I do represent the Mars Hill for Responsible Development Community Group, and we are still opposed to this development, as has been outlined just recently by Mr. Bell. I want to go ahead and start here at my house to start small and then make it a little bit bigger for Oconee County concerns. I live in Bond Crossing, which is highlighted with the red road on our map here. And as you can see, it intersects between Mars Hill and Rocky Branch Road. Until that traffic light was installed at the intersection of Rocky Branch and Mars Hill, my neighborhood became a cut through for several people trying to avoid the backup of traffic off of Rocky Branch onto Mars Hill Road, whether left or right. Everyone can remember the crazy intersection at that point. What is being proposed by tax deferred is an intersection opposite of my neighborhood, one which we have not seen in the county of any kind of B2 zoning opposite of a residential area. But as you can tell, my neighborhood will be of a great cut through for future people who are accessing this property of tax deferred, using the publics, and then cutting through my neighborhood to avoid that light to get onto Rocky Branch. So of course, my neighbors and I are very concerned about the safety of our neighborhood in light of this development. But I want to move on to something a little bit bigger, is the idea of the traffic that has been proposed with this signalized light on Oconee Connector, as well as that's been proposed by tax deferred that they are asking for, as well as potential flyover lights that will have to be installed by the flyover for Georgia 316. To note at this point too, our current Publix at Butler's Crossing does not have a signalized light. All their entrances are right in and right out. On top of this image does propose some issues that will be exacerbated, in our opinion, by the addition of the signalized light on Oconee Connector. As you can tell by one of my neighbors taking this picture, the traffic to the right of this image, this is through traffic on 316. This is what the Georgia Department of Transportation is trying to resolve. However, the traffic in front of my neighbor taking this picture is all the traffic on 316 trying to turn left onto Oconee Connector about 5:30 p.m. With this proposal of an additional light, as well as the 2 signalized lights, potentially with the flyover, we do not see any resolution, but in fact, greater impact on this traffic issue that we're experiencing here in Oconee County. In addition, there's proposed 5 entrances originally to the plan. If I understood correctly, that may have been modified since, but still, as I've highlighted in red bold squares, 2 of the entrances of the original 5 on that Mars Hill are main access points across from residential roads. And as I highlighted before, particularly my neighborhood. Last is the request for the rezone for everything to be B2. To note, the Publix, I believe, is on a B1 zone in Butler's Crossing. And from what our understanding, the original zoning of R1 directly across from residential areas was to allow for responsible development of that property in alignment with the neighborhood that would be directly across the street. So with that, I do want to yield to, if possible, Chris Herring, who has a little bit information additional to this issue of the rezoning of R1, particularly to B2.
patience, Mr. Harris, please.
Is it okay if I remove this while I'm talking? Okay. So I'm Chris Herring. I live on Deander Drive. My family moved to Oconee County in 1976. I've seen many changes on Mars Hill Road, especially when it used to be a zigzag at the time that we called it. Thank you. Okay. So our major points is that
I'm sorry, would you tell us where you live?
off of Deander Drive, 1291 Deander Drive. Yeah, no problem. So our major points, two pieces of the property are already zoned, we feel appropriately. The corner piece B2, no need to talk about it. The center plat is B1 and is the appropriate zoning. The leftmost plat is R1 and it is the appropriate zoning. So B1, this is from Oconee County's Unified Development Code. I'm sure everyone at the table and most online are familiar with it, allows for supermarkets. And as was mentioned by Jennifer, Publix currently at Butler's Crossing, we think is in that zoning. B2, in contrast, is for businesses generally oriented to highways, which includes by right, these are words from the development code, by right, everything from hotels and motels to RV parks, welding shops, tractor and farm equipment repair, car, boat, RV dealers, and others. Our feeling is that B2 zoning for the B1 parcel and the R1 parcel opens a Pandora's box of future, in quotes, rights. Use is not appropriate for a residential neighborhood. Mars Hill Road is not a highway. We maintain that B1 is the right zoning for the current B1 parcel. It will support a grocery store. So will the corner B2. R1, I'd like to sort of park on this. The definition is to establish, is established to protect and promote a suitable environment for family life, to discourage any use which would generate other than residential traffic on minor streets, which Deander Drive is, and to protect the orderly future development of land in accordance with comprehensive development plans for the county. This is out of Oconee County's development code. I think this is what we should be following. Again, here's this picture we've all seen and loved. And it's nice to see that all the way back to 1988 in Ken Beal's pictures that there was envisioned a residential development on that R1 parcel. We feel that's still the right development for that R1 parcel. It is surrounded by a church recreational area, by AG zoning in the upper left, and R1 across the street from it as well. And that yellow Deander Drive main entrance, again, there's the definition up there. Should to discourage any use which would generate other than residential traffic on minor streets and to protect the orderly future development of land, et cetera, et cetera. We feel that a major entrance from Deander Drive, people will go the easiest path. Why turn right and wait at a light at Virgin Langford Road when I could go straight into Deander Drive, cut off to Rocky Branch Road, and head on to North Oconee High School, for example. So we think the current Z1, the R1 is correct and it's economically sound. There's been some indications from the developer that this is the only economically sound property. I disagree. I've done some development myself. There's plenty of economic opportunity for R1 in Oconee County, as we all know. In fact, in today's market, you may do better with residential zoning in Oconee County. So we think that it would provide an economical return as a residential development. This is specifically the R1 partial, given it was purchased with that intent. It's not up to the county or its citizens to make whole a developer that bought at the wrong time in the market. According to Q Public, it was 2006, and for the wrong assumptions that it could be rezoned to B2. We maintain that R1 zoning is the appropriate zoning for the R1 plat. So our recommendation is to deny the rezone request. It's not needed for economic concerns. It's not needed for neighborhood concerns. And by applying the definitions from the Oconee County Unified Development Code. I think it backs that. I've got one other thing on the additional materials, since I don't think we have additional time. And two things. One, how long does an agreement last? This has been here since 1997. Do we wait 5 years, 10 years? It's been 24 years. Do we wait 124 years? How long are the handcuffs on all of us in this room? Things have changed. Highways have come in, things change. It's up to the owner of the property to act quickly and make economic use of the time, not assume what they can do in the future. I wanted to point out one other thing. This was in the 134-page document from the tax deferred development folks. And it says that the opponents to the request set forth in the application or in any amendments to the application have waived their rights to appeal any decision of the Oconee County Board of Commissioners because they lack standing, have failed to exhaust administrative remedies, etc. I would like to say thank you for speaking for us, but we respectfully do not waive any rights related to this process or the decisions coming from this process. I'm not going to debate rights and standing. This is not the time for that, but I'm just making sure publicly that we do not waive anything. That's all the time I need. Thank you.
Anybody online who has raised their hand? Next one signed up is Robert Paulette.
I have nothing further to add.
Elizabeth Hubbard.
It's all been well stated.
Margaret Blanchard. Christopher Blanchard.
Thank you. My name is Christopher Blanchard. I live at 1111 Paul Ridge Road here in Oconee County. I want to thank the folks that came out and made that presentation earlier, which I really appreciate them doing. I think they did an excellent job. I would speak more more generally than that on just a couple of points. One, what's been proposed will adversely affect the quality of life of a number of people in Oconee County and the residents of that area, which stretch in the residential neighborhoods that run all the way up Mars Hill Road. That's Canyon Creek, that's Fieldstone, that's Dander Drive, that is a number of others, and you know what I'm talking about. For all those people, Mars Hill Road is the principal way that they get to town. With Athens is still the collective center of gravity for where most people work and go to school and everything else. And everybody goes up and down that road. And so what we're talking about is now a huge amount of traffic that's going to be on that road. It won't be long. I don't know if it's in the plan, but there will be 2 more traffic lights between Rocky Branch Road and the Oconee Connector in time with the amount of traffic that we're talking about. The gentleman spoke of 1,100 jobs. Well, that's 1,100 workers alone going, 1,100 cars going in and out of that place, presumably every day, not even the shoppers. I appreciate that they want to make it look nice with bushes and other water retention devices, but there's no way getting around it. That strip mall retail is ugly. And it's going to be ugly. And it's one more further step in turning Oconee County into Gwinnett County. And most of the people that live in Oconee County don't want to be Gwinnett County. And we all know that progress is coming, growth is coming. There's more people are coming. We all know that's going to happen, but we are not bound to just let it happen. And so that's, I just wanted to point out that I didn't hear anything about light pollution. A tremendous amount of light is generated by these sorts of retail establishments that goes up in the sky and it never gets dark, and it changes just the character of living around here. So that's the other thing I wanted to point out. Finally, it's been suggested that the county or the commission is somehow bound by this memorandum of understanding from 1997. And I admit that I have not had a chance to review this particular document. However, it would seem to be that this is an agreement that was based at a time when this was principally zoned as R1 and built on that assumption at that time. So I would reject the suggestion that this body is somehow bound by that to approve the rezone in this particular case. And I would reject the suggestion that somehow that the movements would have some remedy at law were this body or the Board of Commissioners to reject their requests. So I ask you to please do your duty, look after the quality of life of the citizens of Oconee County, and reject the proposed rezone. Thank you.
Thank you. Do you have anybody that is raised their hand online to speak? Is there anyone else in the audience who wishes to speak in opposition to the request? All right, sir, come up and state your name and tell us where you live.
Hi, my name is Greg Jungles, a new resident in Oconee County. I live at 1380 Hollow Creek Lane. And I'm speaking for those that were not represented here in regard to Hollow Creek Lane and Old Mars Hill, the two roads that come together. There is an older neighborhood that is in there that will be absolutely impacted in the same way as Deandra. Back in that area is we moved there for a bucolic setting right on the creek and on Barber's Creek. And we are very concerned about the impact of traffic, impact of our ability to navigate the community, and all the additional challenges associated with noise, light noise and potential issues with being able to move in and out of the neighborhood. So I just wanted to represent that part of the community that was not otherwise represented.
Is there anyone else in the audience or online who would like to speak in opposition to the request? Please state your name and your home address and.
My name is Vicky Suter and I reside on Castle Drive. I want you to know the applicant has been told the advice of the Northeast Georgia Regional Commission that stated the proposal site plan shows that this stream would be mostly paved and built over, which is wildly inconsistent with the intent of the character area. The EPD buffer variance letter to the applicant reads, the granting of this approval does not relieve you of any obligation or responsibility for complying with the provisions of any other law or regulations of any federal, local, or additional state authority, nor does it obligate any of the aforementioned to permit this project if they do not concur with its concept of development or control. In reference to the latest lawyer letter saying, the existing zoning classifications cause the applicant significant economic detriment and are not substantially related to the public health, safety, morality, and welfare. It was the applicant's choice to purchase this property, knowing the current zoning. The comprehensive plans are updated through time to improve their relevance and to strengthen protection of conservation character areas along water bodies. As far as the applicant being the judge concerning the public health, safety, and morality and welfare of our county, I propose that you all, both the Planning Commission and the BOC, are the better judge of this. Please vote to deny this rezone that many citizens oppose. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have anyone else online or in the room who would like to speak in opposition to this request? Mr. Bell, if you'd like to come up and respond. Guy, how much time does Mr. Bell have?
Thank you. Just a few things. There was some concern about lining the road up with Deandra Drive, and the reason why that's done is there's a policy in the Unified Development Code that says that we have to line roads up if they're across from each other, or we have to adjust the location of the proposed road at least 150 feet one way or the other. And so the reason why the location of that drive lines up is because it's a provision in the codes of Oconee County. Concerning the 13-acre residential component, I just want to remind you guys that the property was already zoned business before there was even a dream about the Oconee Connector existing. But when they asked the property owners to donate the land, they agreed to donate it. It wound up being exactly 13 acres. So if you had 13 acres cut out of your commercial property and you gave it to the county, you would be expecting to get 13 acres of commercial property back at some point in time. I think we have lighting ordinances and lighting requirements in the Mars Hill Overlay District that we are required to abide by. And the 1997 Memorandum of Agreement was updated in 2009 and incorporated the 1997 agreement in it by reference. And the reason why these projects take so long is because it takes the DOT a significant time to get all the permits necessary to ever do anything. So it's not a surprise that 27 years later, they haven't even finished the construction that they said they were going to start 27 years ago. It's just the way it works with the DOT. And there are still contractual obligations to be met. Ms. Satauer, I believe it was her name, suggested comments from the DRI. My evaluation of the DRI is that the person who wrote that never had attended or visited the site in Oconee County. There were so many problems and inconsistencies in that DRI that I can't even show it to you.
Mr. Bell, that's time.
Thank you.
All right, as we have exhausted the time available for both sides, I will close the public hearing and we'll return the issue to the commission. Commissioner Green, do you have any questions or comments?
Yeah, this is a question for Guy. What is our contractual obligation to this 1997 agreement? Can you kind of give us an outline of that?
Yeah, I cannot speak to any contractual arrangements. What staff believes is that this is a different proposal than what was made at that time. This is an increase in ADTs of the original zoning from 7,000 ADTs to roughly 14,000 now with the proposed zoning. The square footage was very similar, but it was totally different uses, right? The square footage was roughly 300,000 square feet at the time of both the original B2 and the B1, right around 300,000 square feet, but roughly it was 50,000 in retail and 250 in the office institutional, the B1 that was proposed. And of course, the current proposal is for 320,000 square feet of retail. So those intensities are much greater. They were not contemplated at the time that those agreements or arrangements were met. So I can't specifically speak to those contractual requirements, but those are the differences between the two.
Great, thank you guys. What I was thinking.
Anything else, Scott?
That's it for now.
Mike, questions or comments?
No questions or comments.
Nathan?
No questions or comments.
Yeah. I had a question for Guy. I got a question for Ken. Guy, so did you just tell us that didn't have an answer to where the county is subject to that? Nobody's is or no, you can't speak.
That's correct.
So you're not answering the question.
Well, yeah, I don't know. Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
I'm sorry, could you repeat that question? We couldn't hear the question, only the answer.
Did Guy not speak to the his non-answer to the MOA? He said he could not give us an answer to whether the memorandum of understanding is pertinent or not, still. That's what I understood him to say.
Yes, that's correct. But I can't speak to the contractual arrangements or to their validity or to their enforcement.
Right, you can just say that what's presented was not the same presented in 1997.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Oh, I'm sorry. And Ken, I got a question for you. About the stream of the property. Is it a wet weather stream or does it run all the time? Can you give me some color on the stream part?
I
I'm
can.
very confused.
I
about the
can.
stream.
Basically, as you all know, there was a pond on the property. Because the property was originally agricultural property. And as many agricultural properties, they built ponds and the water was needed for agricultural purposes. And so when the DOT did the construction plans for the Oconee Connector, the Oconee Connector wound up taking the dam out. And there's only the remnant of a pond that's there now because the dam is gone. Now, they drained as much of the lake as could be drained, but the bottom of the pond is actually lower than the drain that drains under the culvert under the Oconee Connector. So that remnant of a pond goes dry periodically in times of heat in the summertime. Now, as long as we're getting lots of rain, there's going to be water in that pond. But the stream itself that has, the petitioner has all of the environmental permits necessary for the stream buffers. And they have all the necessary permits for the wetlands requirements from the Army Corps of Engineers. Now, it's true, as the lady said before, still those are only valid if the entire project moves forward with the rest of the permits that are necessary. So you can't really say that those permits are invalid if we continue in the process of developing the property. But to be more precise, to answer your question, the technical name is the water that flows into the low corridor from the high ground is sheet flow. Then it becomes an an ephemeral stream. And an ephemeral stream or waterway is not required to have a 25-foot state waters buffer. There is no buffer requirement and there is no buffer permit necessary to disturb those areas.
So would you say it was more like a ditch?
Pardon me?
So would you say it was more like a ditch than a flowing stream?
Well, parts of it are more like a ditch. I actually happen to have brought a photograph that we may be able to look at, actually 8 photographs. I'm not sure how well you can see those in this lighting, but the lower left-hand corner shows the box culvert that's draining under the intersection of the Oconee Connector diagonally toward the United Community Bank, which you can barely see in the background in this light. Then the photograph above that on the left, what you see that looks like a white building is actually a concrete retaining wall where the DOT came in and built the wall so that they could bring the fill in there where the dam used to be and raise the elevation for the road construction of the Oconee Connector. And then they did trench a ditch from this pool that is there when it rains and trench that ditch down to that box culvert so that they could drain it down to the level that you see it at now. On the upper left side. Now, on the lower photograph on the right side, can we dim the lights just a little bit so people could see a little more clearly what that's showing? All right, what is shown there is the bottom, what used to be the bottom of the lake, but there's some standing water because this photograph was taken the day after a rainfall event. So what you're seeing is the bottom of the old pond with things that grow from time to time on the bottom of a pond that becomes inundated periodically. The same is true, a picture of the bottom of the old pond that used to be there, where nothing is really growing but some types of vegetation that grows in that kind of environment. Now, if you go to the next one, we'll just show you a couple of other photographs. The one on the lower left is a photograph of the toward the upper end of what is designated as an intermittent stream. And the photograph above that on the left is actually a mud flat that the water drains across because it has become so flat there with sediments that it's just a wide. I could have taken 20 different photographs of the mud flat that's there. Then if you look at the photograph on the right on the top, that is more of the ephemeral drainage area that drains to the upper end of that mud flat. And then the lowest photograph there is just sheet flow coming off of the side slopes of the property down to that ephemeral drainage corridor. So that's what all of the discussion is about paving over a stream. It's not the mountain trout stream that some people seem to be making it out to be.
Thank you.
Chuck? I'd like Ken to clarify the 5 conditions that staff recommended that you were opposed to, so I can weigh my opinion on those.
All right, those are number 3, number 12, number 13, number 14, and number 16. The other 15 recommendations and conditions, we have no comments and no problems with whatsoever. All 5 of these have something to do, in our opinion, with access to the property, which is, those are the ones that we think there are agreements in place that may suggest that the recommendations that go with these access conditions may need further study or further arbitration because we can't agree with them the way they're currently written.
The other question is for Guy. Thank you, Ken.
Thank you.
Guy, in Ken's presentation, he presented a picture of the site plan quite a bit different. Are we able to accept that as the site plan upon which we vote, or are we locked into the one that is in the packet?
That site plan came in with the presentation, so I would suggest that the site plan that staff has recommended conditions on is the appropriate one. Staff has not had a chance to review that one at all. That's the first time we've seen it today.
Right, okay. And then the last comment is more to my colleagues on the board, and I guess it sort of addresses on the western boundary. I'll bring your attention to the 50-foot easement up at the top to an AG zoned property because it has a residence on it. And so 50 foot is required. Later on, further down, when we abut the church property, the zoning UDC says only 15 feet is required if that was a cattle property or other ag. I would like to contend that that's an occupied property and has been groomed for use by the church, and would encourage my colleagues and I to increase that to a 50-foot buffer, being that it's up against somebody else's usable space, even though it's Zone 8G. So that's a proposal I'd like to add as a condition if we get around to vote. You have anything else? No, that was it. Penny? Penny, do you have any questions or comments?
No questions or comments.
Karen?
I don't think I have any questions. The one comment I had, I'm not sure if this is okay, if we would ever go back to another member of the public for any opinion, but we actually do have one person who's already spoken tonight who is an expert on the watershed, if there are any questions about that.
Karen, do you
I don't
have
know if we can go back to that person or not for questions,
have any specific
but I just wanted to
questions?
raise that.
Do you have any specific
I don't have a specific question, but I just wanted to mention that Ms. Suter, who spoke earlier, could address those issues as well.
Thank you. Stephen?
Hey, Brad. Yes, I have a few questions. I'll start with the planning department guy. So Guy, with the news that broke pretty late in the process with the Georgia Department of Transportation, the median break at Oconee Connector, and just taking into account some of the concerns of the citizens on Deandra Drive with regards to the roundabout and other entrance points along Mars Hill. Can you address the code with regards to the placement of those drives relevant to where the entrance of Deandra Drive is from a crossing standpoint? And was that taken in, have any exceptions been taken into account now that the GDOT has made some changes with regards to the median break on the other side?
Sure. So the UDC does require that those line up. And of course, the reason behind that is to limit the number of conflict points along Mars Hill, right? So ideally, you would have each of those intersections line up with another intersection. Staff still contends that those locations as conditioned by staff are most appropriate, regardless of the letter from GDOT.
Okay, thank you. All right, I have 3 questions for Mr. Bell. All right, so first question's related to the proposed anchor tenant of this development, Publix. Publix is, as you know, at Butler's Crossing. That location sees quite a bit of congestion, especially during peak hours. Have they done any traffic studies with regards to relief at that Butler's Crossing location should this Publix be developed up Mars Hill Road? Ken, if you're talking, I can't hear you. I don't know if the others can. We have no audio.
Yeah, this was not the problem.
Okay, we can hear you now.
To answer your question, the county had what you see on the Mars Hill, what we call the Mars Hill Parkway, now that construction has been constructed from or completed from the 316 corridor all the way to Butler's Crossing, that was the first leg of a two-leg project. The other leg will extend from Butler's Crossing all the way to Main Street, Watkinsville. So they wanted to complete that first leg before they started the heavy construction of the next leg. So that entire corridor of road will be reconstructed to look like the latest version of the rest of the Oconee, the Mars Hill Road.
Okay, maybe I should restate my question. I was referring to shopper traffic at that Publix being diverted to the new Publix that's proposed as the anchor tenant on this development.
They don't really think that there's going to be much transfer of shoppers from that store to the other.
Okay, thanks. So two more questions. Can you share if you have this information? If not, that's fine. But the proposed intensity of this development from a brick and mortar retail and business per square foot relevant to other B2 zoned locations in the general vicinity?
Yes, I looked at an I prepared an evaluation because there was a suggestion that this area was being overdeveloped, and there was a suggestion that this specific site plan represented overdevelopment. And my opinion, just looking at it, was not that it was an overdeveloped site plan. So I researched 5 other projects that have been approved for construction on the Oconee Connector. I researched the Epsbridge Center project, which was approved a few years ago, and construction is complete for all intents and purposes now. I looked at the amount of square footage of a project that's approved but not yet built called Research Quarter, which is located adjacent to the Paul Brown Parkway on the south side of the Paul Brown Parkway, fronting on the Oconee Connector. I evaluated the medical complex across the street from that project. It's called Connector 1357. Also the vascular surgical clinic facility. I also compared it to not a B2 zone property, but from a perspective of square footage of building per acre. I compared it to the Celebration Village retirement community that was approved approximately a year ago, that's on the leg of the Oconee Connector in front of the Home Depot. And I also compared it to a rezone that was done about 18 months ago, directly across the median break from this subject property. I looked at 5 other projects. I looked at the amount of square footage per acre on each one of those. And I discovered that actually the 2 least intense developments on a per acre basis were Epsbridge Center and this project. They were both around in the range of 6,500 square feet per acre. The evaluation of the medical surgical development, which included 5 different parcels, it was a smaller acreage, but that intensity was 10,000 square feet per acre. The Research Quarter project directly across the street from that, 9,000 square feet per acre. And the one directly across the street, well, let me go back. The Celebration Village was also approximately 10,000 square feet per acre. It's also on the Oconee Connector. And the 4.5 acre parcel directly across the street had the highest intensity at 27,000 square feet per acre. And the per acre square footage is what drives everything calculation wise for any development. It drives the traffic study numbers. It drives the sewer. It drives the water. It drives the parking. It basically drives everything else. So that's why I use that for the basis.
Okay, thank you. And final question. You stated that this development will be above and beyond the UDC requirements from a green standpoint. And just looking at the plans, there's, along with the pond, rainwater filtration systems, is there anything else that we should know about that needs to be highlighted from that standpoint?
Well, I didn't make a point of this, but we're actually reestablishing a bigger pond than used to be on the project originally. And that will be not only an aesthetic pond with lush landscaping and tree planting and benches and a water feature that you'll be able to see from Highway 316. It is serving as a water quality component, but not the only water quality component. For those who are concerned about water quality and concerned about sediment that could make its way to Barber Creek or polluted water that could make its way to Barber Creek, there's about 10 different properties between us and Barber Creek, maybe more than that. Barber Creek is 1,700 square linear feet away from this property. And with all of the requirements and best management practices required of the Green Book and all of the water quality requirements of the Georgia Stormwater Management Manual, also known as the Blue Book, there's just no chance that this project is going to contribute any problems to the Barber Creek. And we have offered to implement this green infrastructure as a completely extra, unrequired best management practice. And to my knowledge, it will be the first project in Oconee County that has this. And furthermore, the Unified Development Code does not mention green infrastructure. However, the state, the EPD, encourages green infrastructure. And the state has mandated that if you have regulations that inhibit green infrastructure, you're supposed to change your regulations to encourage green infrastructure. It's not a requirement. They just don't want there to be obstacles to the people who want to implement green infrastructure because it's a good thing. It's good for everybody. It costs more, but it is a secondary and precautionary BMP because we want to protect the first pond, the pond that's on our property, with these other measures. That was a long answer. I apologize.
That's okay. Thanks. I have no further questions.
Thank you.
Gavin, do you have any questions or comments?
I have no questions at this time. Thanks.
Any other questions or comments from the commission? I have a couple that I would share. As has been pointed out, this is a process with this piece of property that's gone on for close to 30 years. And the county has certainly evolved during that time and continues to. We have different population, we have some different land uses, we have a different comprehensive.
We lost you, Brad.
Brad, can you unmute your microphone? Because we're not getting local pickup from you.
I'm on, but if I unmute my computer, it makes a noise that nobody in this room wants to hear.
Okay.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I think something that the commission always strives to do is take into consideration the comprehensive development plan when we make decisions. A comprehensive development plan has been supported by the majority of Oconee County residents. And the 316 corridor is the county's primary development corridor. It is reasonable that properties immediately along that corridor will be developed to a higher density use than properties in other parts of the county and even properties adjacent to those properties. I am inclined to agree with the petitioner that the property as currently zoned is not appropriate. I've served on this commission for 6 years, and I have seen little evidence that the R1 part of that property is developable in its current form, especially with changes to the UDC that now mandate a minimum 1.5 acre lot size in order to have a septic tank and no sewer capacity available. Also, the B2 property is not usable by itself in its current form, in my opinion. So I support the petitioner's desire to unify the zoning on the property. In Oconee County, when we zone property, not only do we vote on the zoning of the property, we vote on the site plan for the property as well. And we can place conditions upon the site plan. While I support a higher intensity and unified zoning for this parcel, I do not support the site plan as it is currently envisioned. It's an extremely high intensity use. And unlike other similarly situated properties in the county, it is not served by the same kind of road infrastructure. Highway 316 is adjacent to it, but offers no access. Mars Hill, the connector, only offers one access, even if it is signalized, and has a full median break. And everything else goes along a small 2-lane feeder road. Additionally, considering that this is not the first time petitioner has been in front of the commission and in front of the community, I would have hoped that some effort would have been made to find some common ground as far as density, making use of the existing topography. The petitioners indicated that 15 of the 20 conditions are acceptable, and yet no change was made to the plan to accommodate those. For example, the proposal as presented still shows a drive-through fast food restaurant on Mars Hill Road, something that I am adamantly opposed to. It would be, given a choice, I would vote in favor of the rezone and against the site plan. That may be more complicated than is feasible. It's not for me to raise a motion, it's for the commission to make the decision. So those are my thoughts. Thank you. Are there any other comments from the Planning Commission? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
This is Scott Green. I make a motion to deny rezone P20-0210.
We have a motion to deny from Scott Green. Do we have a second?
I second it. This is Nathan.
We have a second to deny from Nathan Bird. Is there any discussion? To be clear, if you are voting in favor, you are voting in favor of a denial. If you are voting no, you are are voting against the denial. Scott, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mike,
Yes, in denial of the request.
Nathan,
Yes.
Chuck? No. Penny,
Yes.
Karen,
Yes.
Stephen,
No.
Gavin,
Yes.
vote is 6 votes in favor of denial, 3 votes against. The motion to deny is approved. Next item for business is special use P21-0028 Westminster Christian Academy LLC.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. Again, you have special use number P210028, Westminster Christian Academy, located just outside of Watkinsville on New High Shoals Road. This is a aerial photograph of the property. It's currently zoned AG and R1. It is in the traditional neighborhood character area. And again, the applicant is requesting a special use approval for one more temporary modular classroom building. And it will be located in the rear parking lot near the ball fields. And staff recommends approval with the 2 conditions. The second one being prior to issuance of a certificate of occupancy for any permanent classroom buildings, a temporary classroom unit shall be removed from the subject property. Thank you.
This time we will hear from the petitioner or the petitioner's representative.
Good evening. My name is Joseph Bates. Let's turn on my camera here. And with Smith Planning Group located at 1022 12 Oaks Place. I'm speaking tonight as the applicant on behalf of Westminster Christian Academy. And hopefully this request is fairly simple and not as complex as the previous one. It's certainly modest in comparison. A special use plan was approved in December 2017 that entails adding a second entrance off New High Shoals Road, doubling the existing building square footage, and constructing a private lift station. Westminster Christian Academy is kind of calling this their master plan. In the interim, in 2018, they requested 2 temporary modular classrooms. And then again, we're requesting another modular classroom for really 2 reasons. One, WCA has been at full capacity for a while and needs more classroom space with its current student body, but they don't want to build hastily. And WCA sees this next phase as the new main campus. And they're not just projecting for the next few years here, they're trying to really project for the next few decades. In addition to build out this master plan and these the next phase of buildings, it will require some infrastructure costs like the second entrance off New High Shoals Road and the private lift station. And so as they've been diligently kind of raising funds, this request is to help provide them with some classroom space while they wait to build for the long term. Secondly, this request is partly in response to the pandemic and the need to provide some safe social distance space for students. Hopefully the pandemic is quickly coming to an end, but WCA wants to be prepared. They are pleased to announce that detailed construction plans are underway and they hope to be breaking ground with the future buildings shortly in the near future. But this request is just to help them to help everyone to wait patiently in anticipation of the implementation of that master plan. And finally, concerning the conditions, WCA accepts the conditions of approval. They're the same as the conditions on the two modular classrooms that they currently have. They will be removed from site prior to getting a CO on any new construction in the master plan. So thank you for your time. I'm available to answer any questions that you might have.
Thank you, Joe. Is there anyone else in the audience or online who would like to speak in favor of the request? Is there anyone in the audience or online that would like to speak in opposition to the request? Seeing and hearing none, I'll close the public session and return the request to the commission. Scott, do you have any questions or comments?
No questions or comments at this time.
Mike?
No questions or comments.
Nathan?
No questions or comments.
Chuck? No questions. Penny?
No questions or comments.
Karen?
No questions.
Stephen?
No questions.
Gavin?
No questions.
If there are no more questions or comments, I'll entertain a motion.
Make a motion to accept as written with conditions.
This is Stephen Strickland. I'll second.
From Gavin and second from Stephen Strickland. Any discussion? Scott, how do you vote?
Approve.
Mike?
Approved.
Nathan?
Approve.
Matt? Chuck? Approve. Penny?
Approve.
Karen?
Approve.
Stephen?
Approve.
Gavin?
Approve.
Motion passes unanimously. Next item on the agenda is rezone P21-00229 Wayman L. and Betty Sue Ash.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Commissioners, again, P20-0029. This is located off of Berta Drive, tax parcel A05022A. This is the aerial of the property. It's currently zoned AR, and it is in the country estates character area. And again, the applicant is requesting to rezone the property from AR agricultural residential district to AR agricultural residential district with modifications to a previous rezone number 295. And there was a condition on 295 that said they could not decrease the lot size or increase the number of lots either. But this comes into play in this instance. They couldn't decrease the lot size without prior approval. And so again, they're requesting to split that parent parcel into this one and this portion, but then combine these two. So decreasing the lot size of that subject parcel and then combining these two to make this a single parcel. So they're not increasing the number of parcels. They're simply decreasing the size of that original one. And staff recommends approval with the same condition.
Thank you, Guy. Now we'll hear from the petitioner or the petitioner's agent.
Can I take this off right here? So my name is Mike Ash and I live at 1140 Berta Drive. So I'm the part that's going to be accepting would be accepting the 3 acres. My parents live at 1120. So they're not able to be here tonight. So I'll talk to that with them. So basically all we're doing is just trying to combine that together to make it like it is. We're using it now for our farm next to my parents' house. So nothing's going to change. Property is going to be used just like it is. There's not any impact. And if you drive by there, you would never notice any difference. So we're just trying to get a little tax off of mom and dad, get it on to us. That's all we got. And Berta is my great grandmother, just For fun times.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else in the audience or online that would like to speak in favor of the request? Is there anyone online or in the audience who would like to speak in opposition to the request? Seeing and hearing none, I'll close the public session and return to the commission. Scott, questions or comments?
Yes, this is a question for Guy. Guy, would the prior stipulations remain on this so that there could not be a split into any more lots?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Mike, questions or comments?
No questions or comments.
Nathan?
No questions or comments.
Chuck?
No comment.
More questions? Penny?
No questions or comments.
Karen?
No questions or comments.
Stephen?
No questions.
Gavin?
No questions or comments.
All right, if there are no further questions or comments, I'll entertain a motion.
Hey, Brad, this is Steven Strickland. I'll make a motion to approve rezone case P21-0029 with the one condition recommended by staff.
All right, we have a motion from Steven Strickland. Do we have a second?
And this is
Mike
Penny
Floyd.
with a second.
And a second by Penny Mills. Any discussion? Scott?
Approve.
Mike?
Approved.
Nathan?
Approve.
Matt? Chuck? Approve. Penny?
Approve.
Karen?
Approve.
Stephen?
Approved.
Gavin?
Approved.
Motion passes unanimously. No further business on the agenda. I'll accept a motion to adjourn. Oh, my goodness. You're right. I apologize. We've been working hard and I've been ignorant. So we have a new member of the Planning Commission tonight attending his first meeting, representing Post 5, Matt Elder. Yes, he is. All right, so now that Chuck has reminded me of my responsibilities and obligations, do we have a motion to adjourn?
Scott Green, motion to adjourn.
Motion from Scott and a second.
Second from Gavin.
Second from Gavin. Thank you all for your effort this evening.
Thanks, Brad, and welcome to the team, Matt.
Yeah, welcome, Matt.